feel like I'm so out of practice at this, but welcome everybody. It's good to see everybody. Is sound working? Can people talk?
Are we allowed to unmute now?
Yes,
are we allowed to
yes,
talk?
you can. You can. The slapping of the back of the hands will not happen now. Now at this point,
we'll behave.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining. You know, it's just funny. We've not done one of these since May, but we're going to get back underway in 2026. But this is usually the biggest tweet jam of the year, and of course, the tweets are flowing out there. We're posting the questions that'll be happening out on Twitter and LinkedIn and Blue Sky, kind of the only three places where there's any semblance of the old-timey community discussions that are happening. We tried Mastodon, we tried Threads. There's nothing happening there, folks. So, but welcome to everybody for participating in these. As we get underway, I mean, usually I've got the tweets flowing and stuff. This is anybody can get involved with the discussion online. I'm going to be following up after our event. I'm going to be going and answering some of the questions since we're kind of doing this. We're kind of busy. I can walk and chew gum, but I'd like to go in and look at people's responses. So if you can't respond within the hour that this is going on, you can still jump in. Of course, you can ask your questions here. So everything is recording. It's streaming. We will be watching for comments. And if it's an interesting enough comment, I'm going to, clapping by Pete. So thank you. But yeah, we'll try to add in questions as well. But otherwise, just very quick introductions. Christian Buckley, based in Dallas, Texas. I am a Microsoft MVP and RD on kind of all things M365, focusing on SharePoint and Teams and Copilot primarily. But Ben, let's go like top to bottom here.
Top to bottom. All right. Ben Stedgink, Jacksonville, Florida. Microsoft 365 admin, Microsoft 365 MVP in Microsoft MVP and Microsoft 365 in security. So yeah, all things Microsoft 365, really from admin, security, management perspective.
Excellent. Adam.
All right. Adam Ball. I'm an MVP based out of the Denver area. Also helped found the CommsV Next conference that's going to come up here in May. Super quick. I'm kind of terrified a little bit about how fast that's going to happen. And so from that standpoint, but mainly focused in on Teams and doing a lot more Copilot, especially in the communication streams these days.
Yeah. Awesome. Charles.
All right. My name is Charles Lakes. I am the newer MVP of the group. As of February this year, I am based out of just outside of Atlanta. So I'm based out of Georgia. MVP is inside of Power Apps. So I do a lot of Power Apps, jumping into Dataverse. And of course, I do a lot with SharePoint and Power Automate.
And Sherry.
Awesome. I'm Sherry Oswald. I am a Microsoft certified trainer, MVP in the SharePoint space, and based out of Colorado Springs, so just south of Adam here. Thank you for having me today.
Well, it's great to have everybody. I know that everybody. I think Charles, is this your first tweet jam with us?
It is my first tweet jam.
Well, we've been doing this since January of 2012, and for folks that might be new to this. Again, we've got the questions that are posted out on X, on LinkedIn, and Blue Sky, so you can feel free to respond there. I always say, like the simple rules for participating in a tweet jam always include the question number and the CollabTalk hashtag. That means people can go and find them, search, and we used to be able to do analytics. That got taken away. Thanks, Elon, for taking away our ability. Actually, it was pre-Elon when they took away the APIs changed and they started charging crazy numbers to get basic analytics out of Twitter. But please do that. And then, introduce yourself out on the socials if you're commenting there. But it's open to anybody. And I'm kind of stretching because I'm going to try and align with what we do with the tweets. We've got another minute and a half for that. But one thing I do want to say about this topic, this is usually our biggest of the year, historically has been like all the biggest news from the year before, that we just wrapped up and predictions for the year coming up. We don't always managed to squeeze everything, all the news into the questions. So feel free to color outside the lines, everyone. So if there's something, if the question's not exactly positioning, the product areas of big news or your predictions, include them anyway. It's kind of all things under the Microsoft stack. But yeah, any last thoughts? Any advice for anybody that's not participated in a TweetJam from our resident experts here?
I don't know about advice. I mean, it's kind of weird the fact that we've gotten spread across multiple platforms now, though. I think that's the hardest part, is trying to find out where people are actually at to have the conversations.
Yeah, it's gotten very tribal and diffuse, spread across different areas, which is, yeah. I mean, hey, it's just the life cycle of the various technologies. But it's great that we can still do this, or like this live stream panel where we could just talk in people's faces and they can comment.
Yeah. Is TweetDeck officially gone? Like the multi-column Twitter?
No, it's there.
What's the URL for it? I couldn't find it.
It's in the Pro Tools. It go into the I don't know if you get it unless you pay your blue check mark or paying for premium.
I don't know,
but it's there.
It's pro.x.com. I had to do the same thing.
Oh, pro.x. I was trying x.com/pro, but that's a pro Twitter handle.
Well, hey,
X.
we are at the time. The tweets have gone out, so I'm gonna let's post the first question here. And if I jump over to the view here, there we go. All right. So first question, looking back at 2025, what was the single most important shift in the Microsoft ecosystem, and why will we still be talking about it 3 years from now? So this could be any aspect: tech, culture, adoption, business model, what have you. Anyone, just jump in.
I think it's changed the way people are working. In some ways it's made us more efficient. In some ways it's made us a little more lazy, but it's still, people are starting to use it in their mainstream day, not just, it's a tool for the day, not a tool for a project or something like that.
Which tool are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about, Sherry.
Oh, AI in general. I'm using a bunch of them. So Copilot, the agents are going to be a huge shift. Trying to decide where those fit into the work stream on a daily basis. Where can the agents make us more efficient, take away some of the tedious stuff that we do on a normal basis?
Yeah, I think I will piggyback off that, where since we're in the Microsoft space, I'll speak towards Copilot more specifically, but Copilot is probably the biggest shift. And one of the things I think, Christian, last time you and I talked, is I come from a pro code background, so I'm used to diving into the weeds. Now that they have Copilot able to, within Copilot, Power Apps, you do the code behind and look at the framing for the HTML, the CSS, and tie it into stuff like React. I think that's a big shift of blurring the lines of what people considered low code before. Now it's just coding.
Yeah. I've always said that the no code is a lie. Low code is it gets a bit more serious. If you want to do something that actually does something, then there's code involved. But yeah,
I agree with that.
It is.
I always question the no code thing. No, there's still code.
Yeah. I'm curious if we're going to be talking about this in 3 years. This is an idea that's bubbled in my head around important shift, is the overemphasis on Copilot, in that in 3 years, are we going to be talking about the shift to Copilot and a lack of focus on some of the other tools that we've been using? I feel like sometimes in 2025 that there's been so much Copilot, that some of the innovation in the work around things like OneNote or things like, even Loop and Planner, I feel like some of the other tools have seen less focus and less innovation. And in 3 years, are we going to be wishing Microsoft would have still paid attention to some of those other tools that got them where they are now?
100% agree with you. Yeah, 100% agree.
I think we're seeing that now. I made a comment out there. I tweeted out that was I think a lot of the big shift around all of this has been more of an organizational shift, and it's I don't want to beat up on Microsoft like the major events. There really weren't any announcements like the traditional sense of big news. It was more incremental. I think that the big news of the last year and a half has been organizations waking up to the reality of, hey, I need to go and clean up my content. I can't just, it's not just another thing where we got a new technology we can throw at it. There's actually work to be done to make sure that we're pulling the right information. And so like, again, the governance discussion has been huge this year. And I think that we're just in the hype cycle around the new technology, and Microsoft went live. This is not an official thing out there, as all of you know on the panel. We represent ourselves, not Microsoft, on this, but I think they really kludged up the whole branding around Copilot, which I think is an excellent brand name itself. It's the Copilot, not the pilot.
Yep.
But they slap the label on everything without a cohesive strategy around that, and they're going to have to dig out from that from a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think they lost a lot of confidence in from their user group, the user base, in doing that. Internally, they had to, every single product team had to have some kind of Copilot integration as a requirement for the year, and you can see that. You can they just stuck Copilot on everything. Yeah.
You have Copilot and Notepad now.
Yeah. I think one of the big things for this year, though, kind of going back to like what will you see back in 3 years, and is that concept of adoption. Like, it's interesting because back pre-pandemic, we had all these adoption change management models, and then COVID hit, and especially in my world of communications, people just had to use it. Like, we just had to jump in and do communications, whether it was Teams, voice, whatever. And it was like you just handed your mom WhatsApp and off you went, right? Like, you really didn't do adoption anymore. And now we're back into that swing of, we have to actually think about how are we rolling this stuff out to users, and it doesn't matter if it's Copilot or any other tool now. It's, hey, we actually have to put some thought. We can't just throw it out there, especially going back to the governance talk, because of the fact that there's so many other implications of what it's going to touch now from that standpoint. So I think this mindset change back to how do we properly roll it out, and even going into the agents, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, it's a free-for-all. And Charles, your point about like, hey, I'm from the pro code and I'm like the no code guy. Like, I am the opposite of you from this perspective.
So you lived a lie. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. I sit there and I test out this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, it's all broken because I don't know anything about the code. Like, I can't make anything work because it does need some of that code. And from that perspective, but I now go into our tenant and I start looking around and I'm like, oh my goodness, like all of the sprawl and all of the stuff that's just out there now just becomes a kind of a giant mess. And so that adoption and governance is just going to become this key area that I think, as we look back on 2025, it's the start of that wave.
Yeah.
I think that's a good start.
Wes just hit the nail on my head with his comment there. I like Wes's comment. I agree on the governance thing too. I think one good thing out of Copilot, it has exposed a lot of bad behaviors in forcing organizations to clean up governance issues they had. Like, I went into one client I was working with, 25,000 organizational wide sharing links in their organization. It's just exposing bad behavior that needs to be cleaned up and fixed.
Yep. Well,
you know me, I'm always focused on the people. These are the people, and they forgot about the people again. It's like,
well, I always focus on the process, so that's why. So, like, you guys keep talking. It's like, but I'm gonna kind of sticking with the tweets that are pushing out. I'm just gonna pull up the next question. We've got like 7 or 8 minutes for each of the topics. There's 7 questions, folks. Again, for those that are new. Question number 2: Copilot is no longer new. I don't know if anybody realized that. It's everywhere. What surprised you most about how people actually use Copilot in 2025 versus how Microsoft or the community expected it to be used?
Were there any expectations? I feel like there's been a lot of here's this tool, figure out these high levels of what it could do, but I think people have largely been figuring out their own use cases. I was speaking to someone a few weeks ago. He came up with a great use case where at the end of the year we're doing performance reviews. He came up with a prompt of looking back and helping him with his performance review. I don't know if I saw that from Microsoft of Copilot is a great way of recapping what you've done for the year.
Yeah, that's what we need is another recap of the year. There's a great SNL. You never see the SNL? They did that. It's a recap of what is it? What's the service where you pay for somebody to pick up your fast food?
DoorDash.
DoorDash. It's a DoorDash recap, so it shames you into how much fast food you're purchasing and having delivered. I thought it was great.
That's awesome.
No, I don't want that at all. No, share it out with your friends.
I think again, going back to the people, they're not using it for these big movements of big projects. They're like, tell me what's in my inbox. I've been on vacation for the last 10 days and I don't know what's been going on. And I need to find out what happened in that, or summarize this email that somebody, blathered on about for, it's way too long, and that they probably wrote with Copilot to begin with. But, I think I don't think they expected people to just use it for those quick, mundane things that we do every day. I don't
think so either.
Yeah, people are still using it as an advanced search tool. Like, absolutely. Yeah. Like, if help me find this, or like even worse, it's an advanced Bing search, right? Like I want to be able to Bing search off of a native language query versus how we all learned how to do search in web browsers.
Yeah, no keywords required.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And maybe that's one of them. I don't know, again, going back to what Charles said of were there expectations, but I do feel very much, and you posted this on X as well, Christian, is people do tend to just stick to single, simple prompts. I know I do the same thing. I'm very much a 1 or 2 sentence. I am not a write a paragraph type prompter. And I don't know if Microsoft expected people to really develop these advanced prompts. Some people do, but I don't see that a ton yet.
That's been difficult because, well, one, they early on they hid the prompt, the personal prompt library. So you've got to go down, scroll down, expand it, then click on it, open it up. And so because they were pushing so much, I wonder if this was a conscious decision because they want to push people towards going and building agents versus keeping this vast library of complex prompts that we're using again and again and again. Because I did the same thing where I had in OneNote a bunch of prompts that I used that I really liked the output from those things. That was my library. And then they hid it in the menu. But then I just said, well, I could just go in and automate these things versus keep these extensive prompts. But what I started doing, and when I teach AI courses, I start having more of a conversation. It feels more like I'm having a chat with the person, an editor, an assistant, where I'm going back and forth. And I'm like, is that really what that is? And and again, it's very conversational. And I've been very happy with the outputs when I have that kind of natural conversation with it.
I think the biggest surprise might be how many people used it to generate their little bubble pack action figure or their AI Christmas, picture, all that stuff. And people stole those prompts and made them their own. I tried one. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. No way I'm posting that picture anywhere. Craziness.
That just became like the almost like the make fun of point of like, it's great that people are doing it and testing and playing because people need direction. We need, like, if you give somebody a white piece of paper and say, go do something, they have no idea, they lock up. And so by giving somebody something to do, it at least gets them thinking about it. But at the end of the day, if that's the best value we can find out of AI, we've all kind of missed the mark from that perspective.
Well, I think even piggybacking off what you say there, one of the core tenets you learn of when you're teaching someone is that there's different teaching styles.
Yeah.
Like, how do people best learn? And a lot of people can have the, I guess, the ambition of thinking outside the box of, I could do AI for this thing I've never done it for. They need to be shown AI in their exact use case. And so you end up creating a bunch of very specific prompts for each person just to show them the capabilities. But that's largely kind of where they stop.
Yeah.
It's funny so I teach an AI foundational course, and I've done it several times over the course of the last year and a half. And while, you know, if those of us that do some training, you know, you want to go and create the training materials once, and you might tweak them a little bit here and there. If new features or things become get announced, you make modifications there. But otherwise, you want to do all that work up front and then be able to then go and then personalize, engage, and teach, but not have to recreate every time. And I'm just finding with each of the different clients that want to have more of that personalized experience, like I'm doing a lot more work to customize it for them, because they can't, the generic examples, Charles, to your point, like it's not working. They need to see like specifically their industry, those specific use cases for it. So it's what creates more work for us to do, but it's fascinating though to go in. I just love hearing the questions, and I find myself saying again and again, it's like, yeah, that's the same problem everybody else is experiencing, just with a different label on top.
Essentially, I think that's one of the things I learned early in my career is every org faces the same problem. They just look at it a different way. But you have to create your solution in the way they see the problem.
Well, I know it's question 3. I mean, we've kind of moved our way into this already. Agents took center stage in 2025 from research to task automation. What's the first real business problem you believe Microsoft agents will truly solve at scale in 2026? I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on that.
I can take a first swing. I think I saw Wes made a comment just a moment ago about the different types of sprawl. I think the first real problem, well, I'm crossing my fingers, I hope it's the first real problem that agents solve, is addressing the sprawl inside of SharePoint, because people using agents on SharePoint. So maybe sprawl will help identify that data rot, and where you should not be just creating document libraries. Use content types, use metadata. Don't have so many organizational links like Ben mentioned, people having so many organizational open links. So maybe agents will help control that sprawl inside of SharePoint Online.
I think to your point, Christian, you're a process guy, right? So defining those processes and being able to put them into a queue to handle them, for me, it's like sales and follow-up is probably the hardest part for me, because I've got to remember 3 months ago somebody had something on fire, but now they forgot about it, and now it's coming up again. How do I keep track of all those little things, and having a means of identifying those processes and automating them with agents is going to make a big difference.
I think another struggle for people is going to be, because I mean, I know this personally, a great example is the new the project management agent. What can I hand off? And do I trust handing off work, autonomous work, to an agent? Because I think the potential is there. I mean, I know I am gun shy of just handing off workloads to an agent. I need to better understand what can I hand off, and do I trust then the output from that? If I'm spending all the time validating the output, have I saved time? I mean, that's the barrier I'm personally need to get over.
I think that's a good point. I mean, on the trust aspect, I mean, I think you're going to have to, but it's going to, just like anything else, you're going to do it a few times to get to the point where you feel like you can trust it and that you're getting consistent outputs, and then you will start to, that's just part of the ongoing evolution of that. Sorry, Ben, I kind of jumped in on you.
No, that's fine. And that is a good point. I wondered at Sherry's point, and I think there's probably already some AI running in the background of one of the tools I'm using, but like triaging email, have an agent always looking at my email to surface emails that I've missed, or not necessarily responding to emails, but helping me manage my inbox, where it's looking through my email saying, so-and-so emailed you 2 months ago when you never responded to them, or you had this to do in your email. Have you done it? I could see an agent there maybe really solving some of the email overload. Or maybe it's communication. Maybe it's an agent that watches email, Teams, all of those, and pulls all of that together. The other one I think I'm really curious to see, and I think there's some potential here, is around the security space. Some of the agents that were created for Security Copilot, and that you're now going to be able to get if you have E5s, and things like triaging phishing emails from a security perspective, or helping people manage conditional access policies, helping watch suspicious sign-ins in Entra, and being able to better respond to some of those security things, because you get so much data that comes in and so many signals that come in from a security perspective. Having agents being able to watch that and help alert and raise different concerns around different potential security issues in your Microsoft 365 environment. I think there's a lot of potential there for agents to really help at scale across organizations.
Be fascinated to see that data like correlated against, attempts to, infiltrate your website, your public websites, other assets, as well as what's happening internally. Yeah, I think that there's huge potential for the security space. I mean, that's one thing that the agents do really well, is taking messy, complex data from different sources and finding those insights, those common denominators between them.
Yeah,
that's why I think that when they announced Copilot 3+ years ago, the most impressive demos were all of like the Excel ones, because of looking at all of this messy data and tell me what I need to know. What are the insights I should be paying attention to? What are the trends here?
Well, it's good for volume content. Yeah.
The problem with that is if you don't know what Excel's doing for you, and to be able to quality check and make sure it's correct, and just trusting that Excel is doing that analysis. That's
right.
I'm not in that camp yet.
Well, that's the problem.
Oh, Excel, tell me what I should know.
Well, that was my point about the autonomous AI. Is if you have, especially complex, taken multiple steps, but it got step 2 of 10 wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's off by a lot. As I say, Ben, I couldn't help but feel like that your comment there had a little bit of irony in it, though, because if you think about like all of the security tools that are out there, right, their whole goal is to alert you on a lot of these things, and you're basically asking a Copilot agent to refine that even further than what they're doing, like whether from across these tools, because that was always the point of them was, hey, I've got to have this, it's going to protect me, but it's also going to alert me, whether it's choose your favorite security tool. So when you said it, it was like, oh, it's a really good point. But then I was like, oh, there's a little bit of irony in that that the tool didn't do what it was supposed to do to filter that data.
And I think it's the agents pulling all of that data together. Kind of to what Christian said, like right now, I can get alerted on failed logins. Somebody tried to log into my account 4 times or 10 times.
Right.
But then I also have stuff going on like antivirus on my computer. I maybe have phishing email coming in. And I think you have different security tools for those. Sure. Right now we have Sentinel, and you can pull all your data into a big database in Sentinel, but I have to write KQL for a lot of the Sentinel-based alerts. Mm-hmm. I think it's that agent being able to span those tools. Sure. I think is where I see it more as versus alerts coming from individual tools. It's that correlation of all the data across all the tools. But I do see the irony there.
I do. It just struck me as funny because I'm like, that was always what like the promise was. We're going to alert you. We're going to make you more aware out of this. And now we're using another tool to do that. And it's just, it is, but to your point, like there are multiple tools in there, and it's like, not like whether it's Sentinel, Splunk, whatever, right? Like they're trying to say like in our tool, we're going to be able to highlight this, and you're going one step further and everything. I get it. It was just the irony of it though, from that standpoint.
So what we just uncovered here is yet again another partner opportunity.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Hey, we're at the halfway point here. So it's with that, and I don't want to stop people from commenting on older questions there, like jump in wherever. But question 4, AI and agents exposed a lot of organizational cracks this year. What governance or risk issue caught the most teams off guard in 2025? And which one do you think we are still underestimating? And we've been kind of talking to this, but anything that just stands out to anyone?
Sharing links in SharePoint. I'm going to go back to that one.
Yeah.
The 25 organizational wide, same client. We ran it against OneDrive. One user, there were 2,500 different people that had access to some aspect of their OneDrive from sharing links. I think, in my opinion, sharing links are the biggest ones that companies just didn't realize how many have been created in their company.
I agree with that. And working with a couple of clients right now, and the hair goes. What they're wanting me to train them on is the way their company works, and the hair just goes up on my head, knowing that what they're exposing, creating is, and I drill in every single time I teach people how to create a link that you have to go into that little settings menu and look at how you're sharing that file. And the default should not be everyone with this link or anyone with this link has
that
access
exposes
to
such
it.
a bigger issue, though. Like Sherry, that exposes such a bigger issue because that's a friction point now between the users and getting their job done. And so, if you're saying, hey, I've got to go do this, all these other steps, like users are just like, nope, done, out, like, from that perspective. But I do think that governance, I love the point of the sharing links, because I think that's, I agree. I think many organizations underestimate how many are out there. Even if you do have it set for anonymous to be turned off, right? Just saying everybody in my org has access alone. Ben, I think that was what you were getting at. From there, I think that's just the bigger point. And I think a lot of companies have had their head in the sand around governance, around because they kind of look at it as, well, as long as it's in the walls of my organization, I'm okay, right? And the answer is maybe. That depends.
And then maybe has an asterisk.
Well, that's why I said that depends, right? And it's like, it shouldn't just be an asterisk, Charles. It should be like the big flashing light, right? Like the big red light right next to it of maybe. So
it's funny. I mean, working with, as you guys know, working with a number of ISVs. I mean, Smart Consulting, we partner with AvePoint and Rencor and Syskit and Orchestry and ShareGate, because that's our clients use different tools where, we've got people that have varying degrees of experience and certifications with each of those things, so we can jump in and help when needed. But talking with all of those companies in the last 3 years, being in their booths at conferences, there has been a noticeable surge in interest in these kinds of questions, these kinds of issues around governance. And so I wouldn't say I'm surprised once you understand how AI works and what it's doing. It's the frustrating thing for somebody who's talked about, built a lot of my career around the governance topics, certainly within the Microsoft ecosystem, is this is the same stuff we've been telling y'all to do for the last, I've been in tech for almost 35 years, my entire career. It's all the same stuff. My first information management system, first portal I built in the mid 90s, we were in doing classification to cleaning up content. It used to be, though, that you had a DBA that would go and clean up and sort and make sure that it was refreshed. And so then we got more into the document side, the Microsoft ecosystem. We don't have those DBAs. It kind of falls on the owner of the platforms or the users to go and clean a lot of that up. And so it just didn't get done. So I don't know that I was surprised by any of that, but that's been a lot of the year.
I would say another organizational crack I've seen as I've gone into clients is Microsoft 365 groups that were created as public groups, where it's not that people have access to it, but people can get access to it because a public group, a public team, right? It's discoverable. A user can go add themselves to it, and then all of a sudden get access to any of the files, the content associated with that SharePoint site. There's still a lot of companies I've run across that have public groups and therefore sites and teams that people can add themselves to in their environments.
Yeah, because they don't understand the architecture. You know, when you create a team, what does it do? It creates all these other things. And how you create that team matters. And the underlying pieces are all affected by that.
The reactive position is just to lock everything down. That's not the answer, folks. No. You can't just do that. Maybe initially, while you're trying to figure things out, the answer is that you have to put process and governance in place. And it's not about bureaucracy. You can automate so much of that. The third-party tools do a fantastic job. Should I be able to do all of that with out-of-the-box Microsoft? Is like, in a perfect world, yes. But again, the partnership opportunities are real, folks.
Right.
That's every platform though too, Christian. Yeah. Like I say that all the time because coming from the phone world, we have lots of third-party solutions, right? And whether you are on Teams Voice or another platform, as an older PBX, there were always third-party solutions. Why? Because no platform provider can be 100% to everyone. We've even seen that in the Microsoft space, where Microsoft is getting better. And I will say that this is a getting better component. Some people would argue against this, but about cutting off products earlier that don't have enough usage because of the fact that, hey, those are resources that we have to develop other things, right? That might be more popular. Like, I mean, clearly, if you look out on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot, the fact that they're killing off the Stream Deck APIs for Teams integration has caused the kerfuffle out there. But they also have the data to say, hey, we only have a few thousand people using it. There's 300 million Teams users. It's a small percentage. You don't want to necessarily keep paying for that. So.
Yeah, that's been a misunderstanding. People think, well, Microsoft is so big, and they're massive. I don't know what their current employee count is now, but they don't have endless engineering resources to develop all of these small features and maintain those things.
It's the maintenance. It's such a key thing. Like we've all been around the ecosystem long enough to have to deal with legacy code of some sort, whether it's, they brought OCS stuff so far forward into the Link and Skype for Business days for me. And I'm sure, going back to some of these things, whether it been on security or, Sherry with some of the SharePoint stuff, like there's just stuff that keeps getting dragged along that's technical debt of such magnitude. It actually prevents you from moving forward. And I'm sure Charles, from a code perspective, has had to deal with that, working around legacy code of like, how far do you bring this forward? So that it exemplifies that problem.
Yeah. Well, and they're deprecating things because they don't have the resources to dedicate to maintaining and keeping them up.
Yeah, but it's better.
Part of the Viva suite that they've gotten rid of.
It's only data-driven decisions. It's data-driven. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, to push us forward here, maybe Sherry, this is talking about the people side of things. Not every role benefits equally from AI. Which teams or roles gain the most from Microsoft's 2025 roadmap, and which struggle to keep up with the pace of change?
I think that the mainstream people are finding ways to speed up the things that they're doing, but I think they're starting to see how it can help them with envisioning, and I'm hoping that that'll be the trend for the next year or so, is start using the AI. Here's our history. This is what we're looking at. This is where we'd like to go. How do we get there? And potentially create a roadmap. I'm doing that personally. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do, but I don't always have the time to sit there and do a point-by-point plan on how to get there. So I think we're going to find middle management decisions are now going to be starting to be replaced by more AI initiatives. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Anybody else agree, disagree?
I think I would largely agree. I think middle management is going to get caught in the middle of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at how it's going to benefit different roles. Since we were just talking about the idea of the developer, I'll pick up on what Wes was saying in the comments here about the conceptual similarity of agents and objects. Come from the pro code background, you have to break things up into smaller chunks when you're solving a problem. And when you have people like the information workers speeding up their development with AI, they're going to be creating things left and right. Middle managers are going to get caught in the middle because they say, oh, this is helping with productivity because they can build their own solutions. But then developers saying, why are you building this on Excel or not using Dataverse? And so now you're going to have leadership wondering why we have inefficiencies in Excel files and 20 different SharePoint sites as the linchpin of some enterprise solutions. And so I do think, to your point, the middle manager is going to get caught in the middle because that's a lot to buffer when you don't want to stifle the innovation, but you want to make sure they're at least taking that first step in the right direction.
Yeah, historically, like when I'm a consultant, people come to me and they say, build me this. Can you build me this? Yes, I can. I can build that for you. And I build it for them, but it didn't solve their problem to begin with. And it takes 2 or 3 iterations for me to realize, oh, what was your problem? So I start with that now. When people say, I want you to build me something, I'm like, no,
you start by telling people, what's your problem? What's your problem?
Yeah. What's your problem? And with the little snark in there. And we tend to get to things faster because I have a broader knowledge as an IT professional of the tools that are available. They have a very narrow knowledge of the tools that they know of. And they're comfortable with Excel,
Yes.
or they're comfortable with a SharePoint list. And they don't realize that Dataverse can help them build that infrastructure for the data they're looking for that's going to be more efficient. But to Wes's point, I love Wes.
Money.
He's my favorite people. Money is the reason people aren't using Dataverse, because every single time you use it's ching ching ching. Even though it's the best or most efficient tool, but everything's a trade-off of time or money. You can
Yes.
build all of this on something that you're going to outgrow in a very short amount of time, or you can invest and make that eventually be something that is helpful and going to be something that scales, instead of something that you've got to rebuild again in a year because it's not meeting your need anymore.
Well, I also like how, Sherry, you mentioned you kind of come in with the snarkiness of like, what's your problem? But I do think there's some truth there.
Yeah.
Early in my career, it was give me my requirements. We might talk about the requirements, decide a priority, but I only built what the priorities were. Getting further into the career, I feel like as a consultant, we are almost like pseudo therapists, where we have to figure out like what are the pain points, what's keeping you up at night, what are you trying to solve, how does this make you feel? When I use this word of archive, when I use this word of efficiency, like legacy, if I say something is data rot, what do you feel? And so I feel like there's a lot of therapy words now as we're becoming the consultants to slowly nudge them in the path of something like Dataverse, even though it costs a little bit of money. But we want them to be set up for success.
Right.
Just to kind of not necessarily dovetail off of that, but one of the areas that I see kind of also being successful based off of this, right, from a benefit, is all the admins. I think as Microsoft adds more and more Copilot into the admin centers, one of the areas that I see is that admins are getting better, or at least they're getting it. It's easier to ask the question. Like I was actually using it this morning in the Azure portal for roles. Like I need a role that does this, this, and this, and being able to get that feedback right away. I'm sorry, I'm past the point of memorizing roles. And especially because with rollback, RBAC, it's just so many, and you might have custom created ones. So with that, being able to understand that, and especially whether it's Azure, whether it's Teams, whether it's SharePoint, it doesn't matter. Like as an admin, the admins are winning here because they're getting more at their fingertips, and junior level admins are even more winning in the fact that they've got a tool that senior level admins never had as they grew up.
I just want that ability for me to go and link to my profile, my login to Copilot, that it logs into those admin experiences so that I can then ask questions and automate things across them. I always liken it going old school, but I would say that it's kind of like we're moving towards having that, AI as that service bus model. It's going to know how to translate and communicate in between the different systems.
Yep.
You don't have to use some archaic language or method to tie it all together to understand UML or speak in in whatever language it is, that you can go in and ask your questions and say, here's the output I'm looking for, and it understands what agents to call up, what admin experiences to pull data from, to go and respond to that. But
can I say to your point, Christian, I feel like this is a miss Microsoft had with Copilot, is they, instead of creating one Copilot with hooks into all these different platforms, like I can't just go to Microsoft Copilot and ask it about admin or the Power Platform or all of this. Like Copilot is very fractured. I have Security Copilot and I have to go to a certain portal for that. I have to go to a certain portal for GitHub Copilot. I have to go to a certain portal for Power Platform Copilot. I wish there was a Copilot and I could say, okay, go pull in the admin experiences into my Copilot. Go pull in this to Copilot. Go tie in a certain MCP server to Copilot. I think that's why you see some of the competitors, Claude, ChatGPT, I can go pick and choose what data I want to pull into Copilot so much easier in some of those than I can in Microsoft. And that's one thing, maybe if we fast forward to the end of 2026, that's what seems bold and unrealistic today, but I would love to see them do in the next 12 months.
I think it was, I give props to, I think it was a fellow MVP, Andrew Connell, like 3 years ago at the MVP summit, where he like raised his hand and it was like, says, when are we going to get an agent for agents? You know, that like idea, like it's like, yeah, we need that. Oh, and Wes is already cheerleading you.
Thanks,
Ben.
Wes.
Yeah.
I appreciate the support.
You're looking for that. So question 6, fast forward to the end of 2026. What Microsoft 365 or Copilot capability will feel obvious in hindsight, but sounds bold or unrealistic today?
I think we can keep building on Ben's idea of a Copilot for the Copilots. That's a very bold way to go into the approach now, considering we have 13 to 16 different Copilots. A Copilot to rule them all would be pretty bold.
And how many admin centers do we have?
Well, and ones that talk to each other, because that's the point. That's the problem with the way Microsoft builds everything. I see it just even in their products, like Outlook Online and Outlook Desktop. They're not the same. Do you guys even talk to each other? The product teams need to talk to each other when they're developing content that crosses
just crazy
over.
talk.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God.
But they're becoming one now, though. I think Desktop is becoming Outlook Online now. It took a while, but we're slowly getting there.
I
we
have
talk about-
got
Plus, I think
my
there's-
feet stuck in.
Plus,
in
I think there's a
Classic
Slack
until they
channel
fix
out
that.
there somewhere. Like,
Yeah. No.
Can we talk about Loop in OneNote?
Thank you. Like what? No, that was a whole can of worms. We all know what that can got opened, and it's just like, why didn't they just evolve OneNote versus creating a whole separate product? Are you talking to each other? Yeah.
Can I make that as a bold or unrealistic one that looks like today? Is that OneNote pages get replaced with Loop? Give me a OneNote. Give me OneNote.
OneNote
take all my
pages or Copilot pages or
OneNote pages.
or Copilot notebooks.
I want OneNote pages to be Loop. I want Loop as a product to go away and get merged into OneNote.
Yeah.
One loop.
Yeah, one loop.
One loop.
Not another rebrand and another icon. Come on.
It's the Highlander principle. There can be only one.
As long as they stick a M365 black little sticker on it that's on top of the logo, I think we'll be fine. Sorry, outside voice.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned that we need to create the little black stickers of the M365 and just start adding it to other signage, other things, whatever it is. This nice new dishwasher. No, it's an M365.
I think one of the areas that we're going to see come back around is this idea of around the agents specifically, though, is just the level of complexity of agents. I think, and even Wes made the comment of it earlier on, was this whole concept of we've got to, this is human nature. We think about things from, like, Ben, I'll just use you as the example. Like, if I say, hey, Ben, I need you to do all these things, right? As a human, you're going to go and do all these tasks. You're going to have a bigger job role. Whereas agents at the end of the year, I think a year from now, we're going to get better about saying, I've got an agent that does this task and that's all it does. And then it hands off to other agents for tasks. We're not going to think about an agent as a single entity person that's going to do a role. Like, from that perspective, each role is going to have its own agent. So I think that's kind of maybe the big misnomer around agents as I look forward is don't think about it as replacing a person. Replacing it, it's an agent that's going to handle a specific task.
Which I think is, I've started noticing some people move in that direction of an agent is created and designed for that one task.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I made this correlation with some colleagues a few weeks ago where, again, in my brain, everything comes back to programming. And that's one of the things when you program, you don't create a function to do 5 different things. You create a function to do one very specific thing, and you eventually make it more efficient to do that one thing.
Right.
And then when it needs to do something else, it calls the next function. Then it calls the next function. So you have functional programming where it's efficient. And I've seen people come from these agents of, hey, I want you to do X, Y, and Z from these multi-paragraph descriptions to now them realizing I should actually create 4 different agents, not one agent to try to do everything, because the agent became too bulky, it became unreliable. And so we've come down to agents just being orchestrated to work together like a team now.
Totally. Agents, as I use this example, or I tell this on a regular basis, agents are basically drunken 4-year-olds that can't get a whole lot done, and so if you ask them to truly treat things like a modern or like a competent human would, it's just going to fall down.
There's actually Christopher Turner does a lot of sessions talking about AI agents with Copilot, and that's, I think, his same example is that AI is basically like a toddler. And you have to give it very simple instructions and keep repeating, because you don't tell a child one thing and they get it the very first time. You all are parents here. I'm sure you have told your kids things thousands of times.
So I did my.
Are we talking about today or
every day?
I did my Copilot prompting session at Ignite, and I correlated it to telling my teenager to take out the trash. You can't just tell them to take out the trash. You're like, there are 4 trash cans, there are 4 trash bags. Each day you must take the trash cans. You have to give them directions, or else you're gonna get the wrong result. And people were laughing during the session because it's true. You can't just say, here, Copilot, go do X. You've got to give it the direction. And
there's a series of videos that are similar to that, Sherry. If you saw, like, where like the dad was with the young kids. It's like, all right, making a peanut butter sandwich. It's like, first open the peanut butter. It's like, okay, it says, then put the knife in the peanut butter. So he just plops the whole knife.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
And it's like, all right, next step. Now put the peanut butter on the bread. And he just picks up the can and sticks it on the piece of bread. It's just like, I don't understand. Whatever, the kids are like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, he's having the kids write the instructions. That was what it was. But,
yes. The kid was every developer.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about the multiple agents. Like Daniel made a comment about multi-agent orchestration, or yours, Charles. I'm waiting for the time when Copilot turns into like the Guilfoyle bot and the Dinesh bot from Silicon Valley, where the 2 bots just start talking to each other and like use all of Microsoft's capacity, because all these bots just start chatting with each other uncontrollably.
Well, the final question here, we got just 5.5 minutes left here, but looking 3 to 5 years out, what is your bold prediction for how Microsoft's AI strategy further reshapes how organizations define productivity, value, or work itself?
I think it's going to make organizations realize even more how essential it is to clean up their data. And so my bold prediction is that in the next few years, the way Microsoft is pushing AI, for people to really use AI efficiently, they're going to be forced to clean up their data. You can't be bringing over content from 20 years ago because at that point it's outdated. So it's going to be a huge purging of content.
And I'm truly hoping they go back to the people focus again, because I come from an HR background originally, and the liability is out there right now. I've had to fire people for doing, silly things that they did out of ignorance, not out of malice. And this is going to be the same thing. Somebody's going to do something with AI that's going to end up being a liability to the company. They got to train their people to be better.
Well, business schools need case studies, Sherry. So someone has to do
it. Don't want to take that opportunity away, right? Yeah,
that's right. The opportunity is out there to screw up big, so that you're talked about for years.
Yeah,
I wonder how
grab it, Wes, maybe.
I wonder how many people from how businesses, and this is not necessarily about Microsoft, this is just AI strategy for businesses. I wonder at what point do businesses start to compare ratios of AI agents to humans?
Be interesting.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Like basically,
scary, but interesting.
It's super scary from that perspective of like, hey, if we need to replace a human, if we need to add a human, we need to have X number. Like we're going to try to keep a ratio of AI agents to humans so that we know that how many humans manage or can have to have an AI agent to support them in some fashion. Yeah. I think that's going to become a thing as we go forward.
You know what's crazy to think about? I think of back at my 35 years in tech and the two companies where I had an assistant. I just felt so productive being able to hand off and had great relationship, but with them each time, but be able to hand off, delegate that in a way that I couldn't to, PMs or analysts or engineers that worked for me, but to have an assistant that's there for me, like for that was fantastic. And that's in many ways, that's how I'm treating Copilot now, is in that same way. It goes back to where we started the conversation, having human-like conversations with the AI. Because my bold prediction is that people start thinking more like Copilot has the ability to change, certainly within the Microsoft ecosystem, getting people to think less about productivity and more about the output. I don't care how productive or how busy or how many hours you've worked. It's about the output.
The quality versus quantity.
Right.
What I'd love to see it to be more like Radar O'Reilly, like anticipate. Like these are the things, you hear it starts recognizing my work patterns and start doing or prompting me or nudging me ahead of time. Don't forget, you've got to do X, Y, Z. Because as a solopreneur, I don't have that assistant. And that's what I would love to have, that second set of eyes looking for things that maybe I missed.
And no one under 40 knows your reference at all there, Sherry.
So, but Christian, her point is the same as yours, right? Which is, I need like when you had an assistant, they would start to get to know you and they would kind of anticipate what you were going, how you would frame something back. And so it's all about the context and whether, I don't remember if it was Ben or Charles on the kids, our kids should start to understand our context of as we're training them for what we want them to do, whether it's take out the trash, etc. Like we're trying to give them context. When they're a toddler, they don't have that context. As they grow up and to be teenagers, they should start to have context. By the time they're adults, they should have that context. And so we need that portion of it. And so can it deliver that by seeing, going back to Ben's original point around security, it sees across multiple tools. So it should start to develop that context of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Do you also think, similar to what I think it was you that said it, Christian, is you're going to start looking at, and I don't know that I necessarily like this, but I can see it happening, as the salary of a person versus the cost to run an agent. And companies are going to start doing that comparison of not necessarily how many agents do I need to replace this person, but what is the cost of those agents going to be? I look at something like Security Copilot. Base level of entry, given Microsoft's recommendations, was $120,000 to $150,000 a year to spin up Security Copilot. That's all changed, but that immediately got compared to, okay, what's a security professional's yearly salary? Can Security Copilot replace that? Are you going to see that with agents? I can do an agent that's going to be an assistant for me, but it's going to take a level of compute.
Yeah.
AI isn't free. I'm going to have to pay an extra 30, 40 grand a year for this agent, or I can go hire an assistant for 50 grand. Are you going to, again, I don't know that I like it, but I can see companies starting to do that type of comparison of, do I pay for an agent or pay for a human?
And I know we could keep going on talking about this. We are at time, though. Thank you, Ben, Adam, Charles, Sherry, for joining our sixth Beatle here of West Preston, also for joining. Everybody who commented, thank you so much. Of course, keep going out there on the X/Twitter, Blue Sky, or LinkedIn, where you see the comments. Keep the conversation going there. I know I'm going to go out with a bunch of my notes and thoughts. I'm going to respond to each of the questions out there. So keep it going that way. Otherwise, Happy New Year to everyone. And of course, if you follow me or you follow any of us, I think we're all going to reshare here, but get ready for lots of video shorts with little stitches coming from this segment as well. So lots more to comment on for the coming weeks, but thanks everybody. And we'll see you at the next CollabTalk TweetJam.
All right. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Happy New Year.